right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're looking at something that might just make you rethink how you voice your opinions, and it's called self-silencing.
Oh, interesting.
It's more than just biting your tongue.
Right.
It's about holding back your true thoughts, especially when you feel like you're in the minority.
Yeah.
And get this, a recent study suggests that self-silencing can actually lead you to act against your own beliefs.
I mean, that's kind of a huge deal,
You
right?
talk about food for thought.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what makes this research from Ohio State University so interesting.
Okay.
This research was published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology. It goes beyond just looking at self-silencing in conversations.
Yeah.
It actually looks at how it impacts people's behavior.
Okay, so what did they do? I know they had students discussing plant-based food options on campus, right?
Yeah.
That seems pretty relevant to student life and probably sparked some pretty strong opinions.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
The researchers basically set up these conversations where each student was paired with someone who either strongly supported or opposed more plant-based options. But here's the twist. These partners were actually working for the study, ensuring everyone faced a consistent viewpoint.
Interesting.
This let the researchers isolate the effects of self-silencing and see how students with different opinions reacted.
So did people who oppose the plant-based policy just clam up? I know I've definitely been in those situations where I felt like it was easier to just nod along
Yeah.
than to actually, speak my mind.
Right, right. And you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
The study found that those who held the minority viewpoint, meaning they opposed the plant-based policy, were much more likely to self-silence. They didn't necessarily stay completely quiet, but they used these subtle tactics to avoid fully expressing themselves.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples. Did they
Mhm.
just kind of like mumble and look away?
Sometimes, but it was often more nuanced than that. They might
Yeah.
express uncertainty, saying things like, "I'm not sure," or "maybe you're right." Others tried to appear indifferent, acting like they didn't really care about the issue.
Right.
And some simply changed the subject entirely, steering the conversation away from any potential conflict.
So even when they were talking to someone who agreed with them, they still kind of held back a bit.
Right.
That's interesting. It's like they were almost programmed to avoid rocking the boat, even if the waters were calm.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It suggests that self-silencing might not always even be like a conscious decision. It could be a learned behavior,
Right.
something we do automatically to avoid any potential conflict or social disapproval. And what's really interesting is that this study went a step further.
Okay.
They wanted to see if this self-silencing had any impact on people's actual actions, not just their words.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What did they do? Did they like stage some kind of plant-based food protest?
Well, not quite, but they did design a clever follow-up task. After the conversations, students were given a chance to earn money that would be donated to support the plant-based food policy on campus.
Okay, so you would think that those who were against the policy wouldn't exactly be jumping at the chance to contribute to that.
Exactly.
Did
That's
I?
exactly what you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
But the results were surprising, to say the least.
Don't leave me hanging.
Okay. Those who had opposed the plant-based policy clicked just as much as those who supported it. They were taking actions that directly contradicted their stated beliefs.
Wow. That is kind of mind-blowing.
Right.
So even though they disagreed with the policy, they still ended up taking actions to support it.
Yeah.
Is that because they felt like pressured or obligated after having that conversation?
Well, that's certainly possible, but the researchers believe it has more to do with cognitive engagement. Essentially, when we self-silence, we're not fully engaging with the information being discussed.
Right.
We're holding back our thoughts, not pushing ourselves to think critically or defend our position.
So it's almost like our brains are on autopilot,
Yeah.
just going through the motions without really processing the information.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time to act, we're more susceptible to those external cues or pressures, even if they go against our true beliefs.
Right.
That's a little unsettling, to be honest.
It is a bit unsettling.
It is.
Yeah, it is unsettling. It really is. And it kind of raises some big questions,
Right.
about what this means for the bigger picture.
Totally. Yeah.
If we're always self-silencing, are we really in control of our own actions, right? What about the impact on our beliefs?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, if we're not actively thinking about and defending our beliefs, do they even remain our beliefs?
Right.
It's almost like we're letting them just like fade into the background, become these shadows of what they used to be.
Exactly. And, this can have a ripple effect on society as a whole.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Imagine a world where people consistently avoid expressing those minority viewpoints.
Right.
What happens to those viewpoints?
I mean, well, it seems like it would create this illusion that everyone agrees, even if they don't.
Right.
It's like those situations where you're in a meeting and no one wants to be the first one to disagree with the boss,
Right.
even if the idea is terrible.
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of nods along, and suddenly this bad idea becomes like the plan.
Right. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Self-silencing can create this false perception of consensus, making the majority opinion seem much larger and more dominant than it really is.
Yeah.
And this can be, I mean, especially dangerous when like important decisions are being made.
It's like we're silencing all those dissenting voices, all those like alternative perspectives that could actually lead to like better solutions.
Right.
It's almost like we're collectively choosing to wear these blinders,
Uh-huh.
limiting our field of vision
Right.
and potentially missing out on these like crucial insights.
Precisely. And, it's not just about missing out on these good ideas. This suppression of diverse perspectives can lead to, like, flawed decision-making,
Ah,
policies that don't really reflect the needs of everyone,
right.
and ultimately a less inclusive and representative society.
So what can we do about it? I mean, it seems like a pretty ingrained like human behavior.
Yeah.
Are we just doomed to forever self-silence ourselves into this like bland, homogenous society?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, awareness is the first step,
Yeah.
right? By recognizing our own tendencies towards self-silencing, we can start to challenge those patterns.
Yeah.
And by creating spaces where open and honest dialogue is encouraged, we can help others feel safe to share their true thoughts and feelings, even when they differ from the majority.
I love that. It's like fostering a culture of intellectual curiosity,
Right.
where we're not afraid to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and engage in respectful debate. It's about recognizing that disagreement isn't like a threat, but rather an opportunity for growth and learning.
Absolutely. It's about shifting our mindset from, I need to be right to I want to understand. It's about actively seeking out those diverse perspectives, being open to the possibility that we might learn something new, even if it challenges our existing beliefs.
So it's not just about speaking our own truth, it's also about listening to the truths of others,
Yes,
even and maybe especially when those truths make us uncomfortable.
exactly. It's about embracing, the beauty of complexity and recognizing that the world is full of these nuanced perspectives. It's about understanding that true progress comes from engaging with those differences, not trying to erase them.
So what does all this mean for our listener? What can they take away from this deep dive into self-silencing?
What kind of invites like a moment of self-reflection.
Yeah.
Have you ever found yourself self-silencing in certain situations, perhaps at work, in social gatherings, or even within your own family?
Yeah.
And if so, what motivated that choice? Was it fear of judgment, a desire to avoid conflict,
Uh,
or simply a feeling that your voice wouldn't be heard?
yeah. And it's also worth considering, like, the flip side of that. Have you ever been on the receiving end of someone else's self-silencing? Did you notice it?
Yeah.
And how did it make you feel? Did it create a sense of distance or distrust? Did it prevent you from fully understanding their perspective?
Those are all important questions to kind of ponder because they can help us become more aware of, the subtle dynamics that play in our interactions with others. By recognizing our own tendencies towards self-silencing, we can start to challenge those patterns and practice expressing ourselves more authentically. And by being mindful of the potential for self-silencing in others, we can create spaces where they feel safe and encouraged to share their true thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm. This research really shines a light on the power of voice and the importance of fostering environments where everyone feels empowered to speak their truth.
Indeed. It's a reminder that even, seemingly small acts of self-expression can have a profound impact, not just on ourselves, but on the world around us.
Yeah, it's almost like by speaking up, we're kind of giving other people permission to do the same. Like we're creating this ripple effect of authenticity.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's about fostering this positive feedback loop where self-expression is like encouraged, celebrated, not stifled. Imagine the impact that could have.
Yeah.
A more vibrant intellectual landscape where ideas can be debated, refined, and ultimately lead to progress and positive change.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it seems like the big question is, what can we do to break free from this like self-silencing trap?
Well, I think it starts with awareness. We need to pay attention to those moments when we find ourselves holding back.
Right?
Ask yourself, what's stopping me from, speaking my mind? Is it a valid concern or is it just like fear disguised as practicality?
And I think it's also about being mindful of like the people around us. You know, are we creating space for them to express themselves authentically, even if their views are different from our own? Or are we even unintentionally, contributing to a culture of silence?
That's a really crucial point. Sometimes our own self-silencing can make others feel like they need to do the same.
Right.
It's like we're setting the tone for the whole interaction.
So it's not just about our own individual choices. It's about the kind of collective responsibility we all have to create these environments where open and honest dialogue can, flourish. It's about fostering a culture where speaking your truth is seen as like an act of courage, not a risk to be avoided.
Exactly. It's about shifting the narrative from silence is golden to voice is power, because ultimately, our voices are our most powerful tools for creating change,
Hmm.
both in our own lives and in the world around us.
So, listener, as you go about your day, I really encourage you to, reflect on the role of self-silencing in your own life. Are there times when you feel pressured to, like, conform, to hold back your true thoughts and feelings? And if so, what small step can you take today to really embrace your voice and speak your truth?
Yeah. Remember, even a whisper can break the silence.
That's
And who knows, that whisper might just spark a conversation that leads to something truly remarkable.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into self-silencing. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of the human experience.